So the title of this video is Where Nicole Arbour Went Wrong with This Is America, and to answer that very quickly, everywhere. Every part of it was bad and wrong. She handled nothing correctly, and all she managed to do was churn out a piece of content that was so upsettingly insensitive that I can barely find the words to express it. All of it was bad. Thanks for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe, and watch Wonder Woman. No, but seriously, Nicole Arbour's video was so disgraceful that it's going to take a very long time to unpack all of it and explain everything and go into all of the reasons why it was bad. For context, as I'm sure everyone knows at this point, Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, released a song called This Is America, which is one of the most groundbreaking pieces of art that I've seen in a very long time, to be honest. In my opinion, Donald Glover is one of the greatest artists operating currently. Everything he does is really impressive. I think he's very talented at everything that he does. I'm not really a fan of his comedy, but his acting career and the music that he makes are both incredible. I think he's one of the most multi-talented people operating in the public eye right now. And he released This Is America, which I'm sure everyone has heard, and it's about living in the United States as a black person. It covers police brutality, it covers gun violence, and like a whole plethora of other issues. The video that goes with it, the music video, which I'll put in the description. I don't really need to, because everyone's seen it at this point, but I'll put it in the description. It is one of the most impressive pieces of visual art that I've ever pointed my eyes at. For the most part, it's a video of him dancing, supported by backup dancers, and from what I've read, the dancing was largely inspired by a type of South African dance. I don't know exactly how to say it, I can't quite remember what it's called, but I believe it's loosely inspired or directly inspired, I'm not sure, but it's at least in part inspired by a South African dance style, which I'm sure is deliberate. I'm sure that's significant. And the first time you watch it, you're essentially transfixed by the dancing. There are some poignantly brutal scenes, like right at the start he shoots a guy in the back of the head, and then later on he shoots an entire choir, and the choir scene people have said they take to be like an allegory for the Charleston church shooting. But like I said, for the most part your attention is mainly drawn to his dancing. But the more times you watch it and the more you draw your attention away from Donald Glover, the more you look at the stuff going on in the background, the more details you notice, the more things you see. Like, you see police brutality, you see a black guy commit suicide, you see a lot of what could potentially be religious imagery, you see a group of black people filming racism in action, and I think that's meant to represent how you can't trust the police. And the fact that you don't pick up on all of that immediately, I think is definitely deliberate. The most common interpretation of the video that I've seen is that the dancing juxtaposed with all of the stuff going on in the background, the dancing and the music juxtaposed with the brutality serve as like an allegory for how American society uses media and entertainment to distract people from anti-black violence and systematic racism. All of the imagery and all of the interpretations and all of this stuff have already been talked about like at length. All of the like hidden details that you might not notice have already been talked about at length. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of videos about it on YouTube already. I won't labour this point for too long or explain it in too much depth, because you can go to other videos and find out about this in other places. But one of my interpretations of it, which I've heard is shared by a few people, but I haven't heard it from that many people. One of my interpretations is that it serves as an allegory for how they distract from anti-black violence and anti-black racism, specifically by promoting content by black artists. If it was just a very vague metaphor for, you know, distracting people with entertainment, I think he very easily could have had like a white guy in the foreground doing the dancing while black people were brutalized in the background. He could have had a white person distracting from all of the racism, but the fact that he had a black guy at the foreground seems very significant, especially since it was Donald Glover himself, especially since it was the guy who made the song, given that he is one of the most popular and influential black artists out there at the moment. I kind of interpreted it as how the media kind of promotes content made by black artists, how the media diversifies the film and TV and music industries by including more and more black people, but continues to ignore societal, ongoing systematic racism. I very much saw it as an allegory for how the media uses entertainment to distract people from racism, but how that's much more disingenuous and much more egregious, given that the entertainment that they're using to distract people is content made by and heavily featuring black people. I don't know if I'm right, and I don't know how many people agree with me on that, but art is subjective, and there are a lot of different interpretations, especially of a piece of content like this, and that's just one of the things that I took away from it. The music style is also very different from the style that most of Childish Gambino's music is. It's very much more, popular commercial sort of mumble rap that you'll hear in the charts, and I've heard a few people say that that's kind of probably deliberate. I saw a few people going, oh, could this be Childish Gambino's new sound? Is this what his new music is going to be sounding like? People have been wondering if he's changing up his music style, but I've also seen people responding to those sorts of comments by saying no, he's not just changing his sound in general, but the type of music he uses for this song is very significant. When you bear in mind the overall theme of distracting people using entertainment, and especially if you interpret it the way that I just discussed in terms of being specific to content heavily featuring or being made by black people, then the use of dance moves, like I was saying before, that are specific to a black culture, and to an even greater extent using a style of music that has been popularized by black musicians, that definitely seems like an important factor. People have also been saying that the setting of the video is significant, because essentially it's filmed, and again, I'm sure you know this, I'm sure you've watched the video, but it's essentially filmed in a warehouse, and people have said that that kind of resembles a prison setting, and obviously that has very strong implications when you're talking about life as a black person in America. I think it's safe to say that every single element of the music and the video are crucial components in the overall message that he's trying to communicate. I think it's safe to say that everything about it contributes to this larger metaphor. I think it's safe to say that every single detail has been planned and thought through and considered and serves a purpose in this overall racism allegory. Every single detail contributes to that and makes his point stronger. I'd also say that the message of the song isn't one that is very popular in discussion and discourse. This idea that racism is kind of deflected from using entertainment and the media is one that I haven't really seen discussed prior to this, and it's really become a topic of discussion since he released the song. I mean, a lot of people have been talking about it since then. It's now something that I've seen a bunch of people discussing and arguing over on the internet, but before he released the song it wasn't even really a thing that I'd considered. It's something that I'd really heard people talking about at all. He's not making the same comments and arguments about racism that everyone's been talking about and that we've all heard already. I mean, those are all still valid. Those are all still important topics, but this is a new and fresh idea that he is bringing forward. He's making sure that we consider something which maybe we haven't thought about before, especially as white people who don't tend to consider these sorts of things until they are brought to our attention. He's just bringing something new and interesting to the discussion, and I think that's really good. I think it's safe to say that This Is America is one of the most culturally important and most well-made pieces of art that has been produced in my lifetime, I would say, maybe even longer than that, and that very few artists could come anywhere near to creating anything even nearly as popular and iconic. And Nicole Arbour decided to make her own version of it. Whoops, she decided to make a version of it about women's issues. People already know about this, it's been widely talked about, and it has been a few weeks already since she released it, but I'm only making this video now because I've been using that time to mull everything over and solidify my opinion and construct like a coherent argument. So I'm talking about it late, but I still think it's important to be talking about it, and I think I have like valuable things to bring to the discussion, and so I felt like I should make a video on it, even if it ends up being ridiculously long. And even if not many people are going to watch it. To be clear, I'm not here to accuse Nicole Arbour of being racist. A lot of people have said that she is, and people have said that there's screenshots of her tweeting racist things or saying racist things. I haven't seen them. I'm not aware enough of that to level any accusations against her myself. She may be racist, she may well be, but she also may not be, and I'm not here to try and determine that. I'm not here to try and make that decision. I'm just here to talk about how fucking misguided and offensive this one specific video is, because it was just... It was bad. You may know Nicole Arbour as the woman who made the Dear Fat People video, and also that one where she said that depression is all in your head, which, yeah, that's why it's called a mental illness, and that you should just wish it away. Like, if you just think positive thoughts, you can not be depressed, you cannot have depression anymore. Those two videos, I think, are the ones that she's, you know, caught the most flack for. I think those are the ones that the most people know about. They're definitely the ones that I have heard about. She's basically not a great content creator, and she made a women's edit of This Is America by Childish Gambino. I'm not even just calling it that, that's the title of her video. She called it This Is America Women's Edit, which is lazy and terrible, especially since she's from Canada. And when I say she made her own version, I don't mean that she made a song about the struggles of women in the same way that Childish Gambino made a song about the struggles of black people. I don't mean she wrote and produced a song. I mean she stole the instrumental track from This Is America, which included some of the sound effects and some of the backing vocals in the song, which I'll bring up later because it's important. And she wrote her own words for it, about women and about how hard it is to be a woman. And then she made a video for it which was aesthetically like identical to Childish Gambino's to accompany her bad song. Now, to be clear, I am a feminist. Like, if you were subscribed to me and watching my videos in like late 2016, like December 2016, when I had my feud, I guess, with Suit Yourself, then you know that I'm a feminist, and you know that I'm a very outspoken one, and you know that I have a lot of hard opinions on feminist issues. So it's not that I'm trying to say she shouldn't have made a song about women's issues. I don't have a single fucking problem with making a song about feminist issues and women's issues. I actually actively encourage that kind of thing. Women's issues are crucial to talk about, they're very important, and if you want to express them in a song, if you want to express them in like a fun and interesting way, especially given that music is such a digestible medium, then sure, go ahead and do that. I do not have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with is hijacking a piece of art that was created to communicate a very specific message about a very specific socio-political issue and bastardizing it to make it about your own thing. It's very clear that she just doesn't understand the video. I mean, she gets what it's about in like a very surface level way. She knows it's about racism. She knows it's about what it's like to live as a black person in the US, but she doesn't understand the video. Like, she doesn't understand the significance of the setting and the music style and the dancing. She doesn't understand the significance of the small details and all of the intricate parts that play into this overall message. And she misunderstands it to such an extent that even though people have torn her to fucking shreds over this, and even though people have analysed and criticised like every part of her video, there are still things that I haven't seen people talking about, which is why I wanted to make a video on it. And to be honest, nothing exemplifies this lack of understanding to a greater extent than the fact that she used his backing track and tried to create like an aesthetic carbon copy of his music video. She filmed it in a warehouse. She did this because Childish Gambino filmed his in a warehouse. Like I said, people have interpreted that as being significant because the warehouse setting kind of resembles a prison. People have said that the setting is a crucial element in the overall message, like I said. He filmed it in a warehouse after putting time and thought and consideration into what setting would be the most appropriate and the most fitting to accompany the point that he was trying to make. Nicole Arbour filmed hers in a warehouse because Childish Gambino filmed his in a warehouse, so she has to as well, right? Her video involves her dancing around while stuff relating to women's issues and feminism just happens around her, because Childish Gambino did a music video where he danced while stuff about racism and black people happened around him. Again, his dancing serves as a metaphor for how the media distracts us with entertainment while racism happens around us so that we don't notice it. And the specific style of dancing that he's doing is significant because it is specific to a black culture. Nicole's dancing doesn't distract from what's going on around her. Like, it seems almost like she's trying to make everything around her pop to the forefront and be really obvious, really blatant. The style of dancing isn't deliberate or significant, it's just really generic dance moves. The dancing isn't doing anything to support her message. In fact, a lot of the time it seems almost like improvised. It seems like she's just kind of doing whatever she wants. She's just kind of prancing about in a really uncoordinated way. It doesn't bolster her point at all. She was dancing in the video just because Childish Gambino was dancing in his video, and so she has to do that as well, right? Also, the music and the style of rapping that she does are very similar, well, almost identical to the ones that Childish Gambino did in the original video. Like I've said, the music and the specific style of music that he was doing were very significant, and they added to his commentary on racism. They bolstered his point, and they made a very real and very significant comment on the kind of media and entertainment that is used to distract people, a very specific commentary on what elements of the music industry are used for those purposes. Nicole's use of like the same music and style of rapping aren't significant in any way. She only did it because that's how Donald Glover did it, and so she has to as well, right? It's all surface level. My overall point here, my main point, is that she clearly doesn't fully understand or appreciate This Is America as a piece of art comprising all of these elements, because she strips them of their significance. Like, she clearly doesn't view it as an overall piece of art. She either doesn't know or deliberately disregards the reasons why all of these small details are included and the ways in which these elements were used, and she just copies them blindly and at a surface level with no regard for why they were used in the way that they were in the original. Also, the things that she was saying aren't like new or original points or ideas. And again, This Is America, the original, was raising a point which I hadn't seen any discussion of prior to the release of the song. And Nicole's talking about the same shit that feminism has been talking about for decades. Like, she talks about the glass ceiling, about date rape, about the prude and slut stereotypes, which are all fine to talk about because they are very valid points of discussion. They're important socio-political issues which should be discussed and addressed and tackled, but to do that by stealing the style and sound of a piece of art deliberately created to expose an issue which people are hesitant to talk about, or at least haven't been talking about, is just offensive. Like, the original song sheds light on an issue which people feel uncomfortable addressing, which people don't really like to acknowledge, which people feel afraid to talk about. Whereas Nicole's song is just the same valid but trite arguments and points that I've been hearing about for as long as I can remember. Like, the original was brave. Childish Gambino creating that song and putting it out into the world was a brave move, and Nicole isn't even brave enough to like produce her own song or come up with a creative and original idea for a music video. I want to bring up something which I noticed when I finally got round to actually watching her version of the song for myself, which I didn't want to do for a while because I knew it was going to be bad, but I did get round to it and I noticed something which I feel like I need to address. Initially, I didn't think she'd straight up just stolen the backing track. Eventually she did, I think, admit that she did, but I at first didn't think that she had. I thought she just tried to recreate it or something. But there was one thing in particular that I noticed which made me think that she had straight up stolen the backing track, changed the pitch to make it higher, like very slightly higher, and then just added some sound effects and beat elements of her own. For one, it does just sound like a more high-pitched version of the backing track, and the vocals at the beginning, which she accompanies, and it sounds really bad, but they just sound the same, but like they're slightly higher in pitch. But it was something really specific that caught my attention. So like I said earlier, at one point in the original video, Donald shoots a choir of people with an AK-47 assault rifle. And obviously when he does that, you hear gunshots, you hear the sound effect of him shooting those people. But that wasn't added in later. That sound effect was mixed in with the music and some of the backing vocals and some of the other sound effects. And so at 1 minute 56 seconds into the video, he shoots them and you hear a gunshot. Now at 1:56, in Nicole Arbour's version of the song, you don't hear the gunshots, but what I realised is that at the beginning of the original song, well no, the beginning of Childish Gambino's video, there are like 5 or 6 seconds of silence at the beginning while it shows like the title card and the opening screen. But Nicole's version of the song doesn't have those 5 or 6 seconds of silence, it just goes into the song, the music starts playing while it's showing that title screen. And so at 1 minute like 50 or 51 seconds, you hear the gunshots. Because of course you do. I've given you the timestamps, 1:56 in the original and then 1:50 I think-ish in Nicole Arbour's version, and the links are going to be in the description, so you can go and check this for yourself. It does sound different. The gunshots do sound different because I think, like I said, that the pitch is higher and I think it was stripped of some of the additional sound effects. But it's extremely fucking unlikely that a gunshot would happen at that exact moment if she hadn't just stolen the backing track, especially given that her video doesn't cover gun violence at all in any regard, and especially given that the thing that is happening on screen at the moment that you hear the gunshots is 2 people getting married, and there are no guns in sight, obviously, because why would there be guns present? So to steal a piece of music created by multiple black artists to make a comment on racism, a segment of which contains a sound effect which is included to support a moment in a video which serves as an allegory for a racist church shooting, and to strip it of its meaning in support of a song that is like a trite and hackneyed comment on misogyny, is so fucking bad. Like I said, talk about sexism, bring up these issues, talk about misogyny, just don't do it like this. I want to kind of raise an issue which I haven't seen anyone specifically talk about yet. I may be wrong, people may have addressed this, so feel free to correct me, but I've not seen anyone bring this up yet, at least not like specifically. To just for a second be a little bit reductive and to disregard some of the like more specific points that Childish Gambino makes in This Is America. The song is about how the US media uses entertainment, uses content made by black people and heavily featuring black people to distract from the fact that very real structural racism is happening everywhere. To expand on that a little bit, the media industry is making money. The media industry is profiting off of black people's art and using it to pretend that real racism doesn't exist and isn't happening. Nicole Arbour has taken this piece of art, created by one of the most influential black artists of the last couple of decades probably, to make a comment on this element of racism that very few people have raised before. And she's entirely removed the racism element and is profiting off of that. Donald Glover made a piece of art with the specific message of the media uses black art to prevent people from talking about racism. Nicole Arbour took that piece of art and removed the racism element to talk about women's issues. He made a song about how the media industry doesn't like people talking about racism, and she made it about something completely different. Like, if you can't see how fucked up that is, if you don't understand how fundamentally wrong that is, then I don't know how to explain it in a way that will make you see just how fucking awful that is. Now for a segment that I like to call Nicole Arbour tries to apologise and completely misses the point. I say she tries to apologise, but at no point does she actually say that she's sorry specifically. She doesn't use the words "I'm sorry" or "I apologise," so I am using the word apologise very liberally. The ratings and the comments on her video have been disabled, and the entire description is just her trying to justify the video, so let's unpack that and laugh at how wrong all of it is. The purpose of my rendition was to honour the spirit of the video, which absolutely moved me, by adding my and many women's life experiences and truths to the brave and brutal truths expressed in the original. No! The spirit of the original was, let's talk about racism. The core, fundamental spirit of This Is America is to directly address racism. Its spirit is to specifically be about racism and race issues. And making it about something else is, like, at best, completely disregarding that, and at worst, deliberately removing it, which is even worse. The only way a song about women's issues could honour the spirit of the original would be if it was, you know, created by a black woman and was about living as a black woman in the US, and how the points raised in Donald Glover's original song interact with and intersect with women's issues. You can't completely remove the fundamental core of the song and then claim to be honouring it. You can't do that. And if you think that the core of the video, if you think that the spirit of the video is the music and the singing and the dancing and the fact that you're talking about a hotly debated, contentious, socio-political topic, then you don't understand the video. It was created with every intention of bringing a light to women's experiences such as the shaming of mothers breastfeeding, commonplace date rape drugging, the labels put on us of prude or hoe, pressures to create a family, workplace harassment, the glass ceiling, drug dependency, effects of social media on modern relationships and self, and included a nod to the cheerleaders who have come forward demanding at least minimum wage from the multi-million-dollar corporations they work for. Okay, for one, if in justifying and explaining your video you need to list every single thing that you did in the video was not a success. If you think people haven't already picked up on all of that, then you didn't do a good job of making a piece of content. But also, like, that's great. You should talk about those things. I'm not saying this ironically. Wanting to talk about these things is good, and you should do it. You should talk about sexism and be vocally feminist, but you should do it in a piece of content that is created by you, which is original and which is created specifically to be about that, rather than hijacking something that was intended to be about an entirely separate topic. It was a tongue-in-cheek way to give additional glory to what I believe is the most impactful piece of art in recent years. I mean, props, I guess, for recognising that it's one of the most impactful pieces of art in recent years. I don't understand how it's tongue-in-cheek though, given that there doesn't really seem to be anything cheeky or parodic about it. And if you want to give it additional glory, just promote it, like share it on your fucking social media platforms and be like, hey, this is one of the most impactful pieces of art in recent years. Like, plagiarism and bastardization are not ways of giving additional glory to anything. In retrospect, due to the sensitive nature of the original, I understand why some people are wrongly portraying this as white versus black. However, this was not the intent or theme at all. We had a very diverse cast and creative team working on project from start to finish, who signed on to honour the original while adding more truth from another perspective. Okay, for one, this is not a white versus black thing. This is not a race thing. I mean, it is a little bit a race thing, because he made the original to specifically be about racism and about life as a black person, but the problem with what you did is not that you're a white woman. The reason that it's bad is because you stripped it of its meaning and its message to hijack it and make it about your own thing. Like, not even a similar topic, not even like a very close issue, like it's a completely unrelated, completely separate thing. Anyone of any race could have done what you did, and I would be like, hey, you fucked up, you did a bad thing here. It's not a white versus black thing. But you also use this phrase, adding more truth, which I don't understand. That makes it sound like you've gone, you raise some interesting points, Childish Gambino. Allow me to expand on those. But that's not what you did, is it? I firmly believe the best thing that can happen in America and North America right now is for everyone to create their own version of this video and show what life is like from their side. Through this honesty, I believe we can discover a new level of empathy and understanding for each other that will ultimately and finally lead us to healing and unity that is desperately needed in society. What can we agree on? What do we have in common? Where are we hurting? Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe? Start there, then rebuild. No! No, this is wrong for so many reasons. For one, I'm pretty sure the reason that you're saying that everyone should make their own version of it isn't because you think they should, it's because you don't want to be the only person who's done it and got in trouble for it. I agree that the secret to empathy and the secret to understanding is to find common ground and to strive for unity and to rebuild or whatever the hell else, you know. I believe that firmly. I agree with you on that bit, I guess. But people should not start making all sorts of different versions of This Is America about different hot topics. They shouldn't be doing that. They should make their own thing. They should make their own pieces of art. People who want to talk about any issue should talk about that issue, but they should make their own thing, which is specifically meant to be about that, rather than hijacking and plagiarizing someone else's piece of art, especially when that piece of art was meant to talk about something specific. They should make their own original content. They should make books and films and TV shows. They should talk on public platforms about these things. They should make YouTube videos. They should make blog entries. They should talk in a public sphere about these things, but not using the format and the aesthetic of a piece of art created specifically to talk about one thing, where every element of that piece of art is used for the reason of bolstering the point that they're trying to make. Like, if every element of a piece of art is crucial in supporting the overall idea and the overall message, then you can't just take that piece of art and redistribute it to whatever issue you want it to apply to. You can't do that because it just won't translate. All of the different elements have to be changed. In order to make your own feminist version, you would have to change everything. You'd have to change the setting and the style of music, and you'd have to change the dancing that you did, if you even danced at all, because he used those things to specifically be about the point he was trying to make, which was about racism and about race, and so it doesn't translate. You can't just drop any issue into that piece of content and expect it to work. But even if you could, still not your content. It's still plagiarism. You still can't just steal someone's backing track and their entire format and go, this is my thing now because I changed the words. And then she pulls a Logan Paul and ends it with a hashtag and an emoji without ever actually apologizing. This video is already too long, but I also want to talk briefly about a clip where she tries to apologize again. The clip was included in I'm Alex's video on the topic, so I'll link that in the description because I don't actually know where he got the clip from. But the point I want to make isn't one that he really made in his video, so I still want to talk about it. Actually, yeah, this is the clip where she straight up admits to stealing the song, where she admits to stealing the backing track, which, at least she admitted it, even if she didn't apologise for it. The first thing that she says, really, is that she's glad it happened, and that she's glad she got backlash for it because it allowed her to appreciate and understand the cultural significance of the song and what it means to people. And she says that now that she understands those things, she can see that the timing was off. She gets asked if she has like a specific message for Childish Gambino, and she says, and I quote, "Mr. Childish Gambino, I apologise specifically to you that I released my shit much too early. I didn't know how big this video was going to get, and I didn't mean to take any shine away from what you were doing, or the message, or any of that, but also, holla. I didn't do that justice. When she said holla, she went holla, which isn't a great apology, I'm gonna be honest. That's not terrific. Like, the timing was not the issue, the problem was that she fucking did it at all, so she clearly doesn't understand what she's been criticised for or what she did wrong. Like, she seems to think that the only reason this is bad is because his song was creating like a significant societal shift, and that it was like sweeping the nation and creating a movement, and that releasing hers when she did, I guess, interrupted that or distracted people from it or obstructed it. But no, the problem was that she did it. She could have waited before she'd made her version and it'd still be a shitty thing to do. It'd still be awful. Like, she could have waited a fucking decade before she made her white feminist parody of one of the most culturally significant pieces of art in recent history, and it still would have been fucking monstrous. Like, she still would have had criticism leveled against her. This just worn me out. Sorry it was so long. I'll try not to make my videos this long, like, in the future, but yeah, it's worn me out. I'm done. I can't fucking talk about Nicole Arbour anymore. She's just the worst. And ending this video with, like, a light-hearted, oh, watch Wonder Woman, just doesn't seem right now. It just seems like an inadequate way of ending a video. I mean, if you want to engage with a piece of content that covers women's issues to an extent and sort of has a feminist slant to it, then yeah, watch Wonder Woman. But that seems wrong for this video. It doesn't seem like the right ending. Love for everybody. Go team.